Hello, I am back to read Chapter 3 to you, The Silver Thimble. Now remember in the last chapter we had the Nina caper, where Josefina found Nina, but she found out that her sister Clara had been holding on to her all along, and Clara's very sad about the loss of their mother who made the doll. So, she's probably having a hard time letting go of that doll because it has a lot of sentimental value for her. So the silver thimble. And they did start repairing the altar cloth the very next day, which was made by her mother. Everyone except Clara. Josefina helped Tia Dolores wash the altar cloth in warm soapy water and rinse it in clear, cool water. Gently, Tia Dolores wrung out the cloth. Then she and Josefina spread it to dry in a sunny corner of the back courtyard. When the cloth was dry, Anna ironed it smooth, being careful not to scorch it with the hot irons heated by the fire. Francisca helped Josefina mend some of the holes the mice had chewed, and Tia Dolores cut off the end where the holes were too big to mend. She attached a new piece of material in its place. At last the time came to begin the colcha embroidery. Tia Dolores and the four sisters gathered in front of the fire, as they did every evening. Tia Dolores spread out the altar cloth. "What shall we embroider?" she asked, looking at the sisters. Josefina looked at the altar cloth. Firelight brightened the colors of the designs that Mama had stitched. Josefina had an idea. "Wait," she said. Very quickly she went to her room and found her memory box, the little box in which she kept things that reminded her of Mama. She brought the box back to the fireside. "Mama made the altar cloth," she said. "I think we should embroider things on it that she loved. Maybe the things in my box will give us ideas." Josefina opened her memory box and Francisca took a swallow's feather out of it. "Mama loved swallows," Francisca said. "I'll embroider swallows and other birds on the altar cloth." Anna took a bit of lavender-scented soap out of the box. She smelled it. "I'll stitch sprigs of lavender," she said. "Mama loved its scent." "And I'll embroider leaves and flowers," said Josefina as she took a dried primrose out of her memory box, "because Mama loved them." "And what will you embroider, Clara?" Tia Dolores asked. Clara was only halfway in the firelight. She looked at the altar cloth with critical eyes. "Doesn't matter," she said. "We can't make that cloth look right again without Mama anyway." "We can," said Tia Dolores firmly. "It'll take time, but we can repair it. And if we all work together, I think we'll even enjoy doing it." Clara drew back out of the light, but Josefina saw her face. It looked as sad as it did in the moment Josefina had seen Clara holding Nina and crying. Suddenly Josefina felt sorry for Clara. "Doing the colcha embroidery makes me miss Mama too, Clara," Josefina said. "It makes her seem very far away, doesn't it?" Clara didn't answer. "Perhaps this will help," said Tia Dolores. She reached in her pocket and took out a silver thimble. "Your Mama gave this to me a long time ago when we were little girls. She was trying to teach me how to do colcha. I didn't like it because I kept pricking myself with the needle and it hurt. She gave me the thimble to protect my finger. Now all of you may use it to protect your fingers." And that's what a thimble looks like. Clara leaned forward on her stool. She looked at the thimble and then at Tia Dolores. "If Mama gave something like that to me, I'd keep it forever," she said. "I wouldn't dream of giving it away." "Just like Nina," thought Josefina with a heavy heart. "It makes me happy to share the thimble," said Tia Dolores. "When we use it, we'll think of your Mama with every stitch we make. Perhaps it'll make her seem closer, not farther away." "Oh, please, may I use it?" Josefina asked. Tia Dolores handed the silver thimble to Josefina, and she put it on her finger. It looked shiny in the light of the fire. As she began stitching, Josefina used the thimble to help push the needle through the cloth. She knew Clara was watching her. When Josefina started to tie a knot at the end of the wool she was using, Clara moved next to her. "Don't," said Clara. "Have you forgotten? Mama said to never knot the wool. Use your second stitch to hold your first stitch in place. Here, let me show you. I'll stitch the stem of that flower for you." Clara spread the cloth over her knees and took the needle from Josefina. She began to stitch. Francisca nudged Anna, and Anna raised her eyebrows at Josefina as if to say, "This is a surprise." Josefina took the thimble off her finger. "Use this," she said. Clara stopped for a moment and looked at the thimble. Then slowly she took it from Josefina and slipped it on her own finger. Gracias, she said, but so quietly only Josefina could hear her. Josefina gave herself the job of untangling knots in the wool Tia Dolores was using. When she looked up a little while later, Josefina saw that Clara had finished stitching the stem and was embroidering a yellow blossom on the end of it. Josefina saw that Clara's stitches were smooth and sure and secure. She also saw that Clara hadn't taken the silver thimble off her finger. On a still cold evening a few days later, Tia Dolores and the sisters were working on the altar cloth in front of the fire. "Francisca," said Josefina, "that chicken you're stitching looks just like the pretty little hen that Senora Sanchez gave us." Francisca groaned and pretended to be annoyed. "It's not supposed to be a chicken," she said. "It's supposed to be a sparrow." She held the altar cloth up so that Tia Dolores, Anna, and Clara could see it, too. "What do you think?" she asked. "Can we pretend that it's a very fat sparrow? One that clucks instead of singing?" teased Josefina. They all laughed, and Clara said, "I can fix it for you. It just needs its feathers smoothed a bit." "Gracias," said Francisca. She let Clara take the needle with relief. There you can see Josefina and Clara. They're working on their embroidery, and Clara has the thimble and she's putting it on her finger. Anna had been wearing the silver thimble, but now she handed it to Clara. "You'll need this," she joked. "Francisca's chicken might peck at you." Tia Dolores was right, thought Josefina as they all laughed again. We are enjoying working together to repair Mama's altar cloth. "I remember when Mama taught me to do colcha," said Clara. "She told me, 'You'll like colcha. You have hands that need to be busy.'" Tia Dolores and the sisters smiled at Clara's memory. Josefina watched Clara stitch and admired, as she always did, the way the silver thimble shone in the firelight. The four sisters and Tia Dolores worked on the cloth almost every evening, and it was a time Josefina looked forward to. They took turns wearing the silver thimble. Francisca made a game out of it. She said that whoever wore the thimble had to share a memory about Mama. Sometimes the memories would make Josefina sad, but sometimes they made her laugh because they reminded her of happy times. Just as the thimble protected Josefina and her sisters from the pain of being pricked by the needle, it seemed also to protect them from the pain that memories of Mama used to bring. Repairing the altar cloth was slow work, but as the days went by, stitch by stitch, the cloth became beautiful again. And as the days went by, bit by bit, Josefina began to feel better about all the things this Christmas might bring, even though she was now quite sure Nina was not going to be one of them. Before they knew it, Christmas was only 9 days away, and it was time for Las Posadas to begin. On the first night of Las Posadas, it was snowing lightly when Josefina and her family walked to the village. Papa led the way, holding a lantern high to light the road. When they came into the plaza, Josefina could see hot orange sparks from the bonfires rising up to meet the cold white snowflakes. The biggest bonfire was in front of the church. Almost all their friends and neighbors and all the workers from Papa's rancho had gathered around it. Everyone greeted the Montoyas when they joined the circle, and their breath puffed clouds into the sharp air. As Josefina watched Margarita Sanchez climb onto the burro and settle her skirts around her, she thought Margarita would be a very fine Maria. Because it was the village tradition, Margarita's papa was being Jose. He led the burro to the first house and everyone followed. He knocked on the door and they all sang, "In heaven's name we ask for shelter," and the people inside sang back, "This is not an inn, be on your way." At first Josefina didn't even try to join the singing. She hung back, expecting to feel the same heavy, ice-cold weight of sorrow she'd felt last year. Back then, she had missed the sound of Mama's voice so much that the music had been painful to hear. But tonight, the music wasn't painful. It sounded gentle and familiar. Josefina listened very hard. It seemed to her that the music helped her remember the sound of Mama's voice, and so she was glad to hear it. Josefina looked at the faces that surrounded her. She saw Senor Garcia's thin, kindly old face, and Margarita Sanchez's young, round face. She saw Anna, Francisca, and Clara with snowflakes clinging to their hair. Here you can see. So the pageant is outdoors, and they're traveling around, and everybody's standing outside with their candles singing. She heard Papa's voice so low she could feel it inside her, and Tia Dolores' voice strong and clear. It was a comfort to be surrounded by these good people who had loved Mama, too. "Oh, Mama," Josefina thought, "we all miss you so much." Somehow the thought made missing Mama easier to bear. Josefina shivered, but it was the beautiful music that made her shiver, not cold or sorrow. As she listened, Josefina thought about how people had been singing these same songs at Las Posadas for hundreds of years. They sang to honor God and to remember the first Christmas when Jesus was born. Josefina thought back to when Mama taught her the songs so that she could join in the tradition. She remembered all the Christmases when she and Mama had taken part in Las Posadas together, and the memories were both sad and sweet. Tonight, the last house the procession went to was the Sanchez family's house. This time, after the people outside asked for shelter, the people inside opened the door wide. Josefina saw Senora Sanchez's good-natured face in the doorway and heard her sing louder than anyone else. "Come in, weary travelers. You are welcome." Josefina grinned. No one could doubt that Senora Sanchez truly meant the welcoming words from her heart, and Josefina meant it too when she and the others sang their thanks in return. "God bless you for your kindness, and may heaven fill you with peace and joy." Then everyone crowded inside for prayers and more singing before the party began. In the Sanchez's family house, the air was spicy, with the delicious aroma of meat pies and tamales and, of course, Senora Sanchez's famous stew. Josefina saw Clara and Margarita warming themselves by the fire. They were looking at the ramilletes, and Clara was holding up a scrap of yellow cloth as if she were planning to make more flowers. Her face looked happy and eager. Josefina thought that Clara must be feeling in the same way she was, as if a heavy burden had started to slip away. So we still have one more chapter in this book. Sounds like it will be about Christmas itself. It's called La Noche Buena, and we will be looking at that one next time.